You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynne Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Wednesday the 3rd of October. First arrest in little April's disappearance is an ex-soldier. Savile could be stripped of title if allegations are proved. Tragedy unfolds in Hampshire. Switzerland, Amnesty mocks SVP over asylum laws. Police ignore Arab death threats against Jews at Temple Mount. British woman accused of sex in taxi appears in Dubai court in hijab. Christian Copts face violence in Egypt. Thought for the day, black or white or white or black. And finally, you'll need a CRB check if you want to watch your own child. UK news. Former soldier Mark Bridger, 46, was arrested yesterday afternoon at 3:30 and is still being questioned over the whereabouts of April Jones, 5, who went missing on Monday whilst playing with friends. He was arrested on the A487 just north of the Diffie Bridge, walking in the direction of Machlineth. I do apologise to Welsh speakers, and wearing camouflage clothing. Bridger is a lifeguard and known to April's family, but is not related. Officers have urged the public to leave the search for April to trained and skilled teams. Bridger was apprehended whilst walking along a road on the edge of the town. Police have released a picture of his Land Rover and have appealed for witnesses. Apparently it is reported that another abduction was reported in that area last month. The search is still going on for April. It is reported that Sir Jimmy Savile could lose his knighthood posthumously if claims of sexual abuse of young girls is proved true. Savile was knighted in the Queen's Birthday Honours List in 1990, an award which followed the OBE he was given for services to charity and broadcasting in 1971. He died last year, aged 84. Apparently this move to remove his title could take place if, and I quote, they are officially censored by a professional body or convicted of a criminal offence. The latest allegation is from a 65-year-old woman who claims she became pregnant after the presenter raped her when she was a virgin, aged 16. A World Date writer comments this was nearly 50 years ago when Savile was 35. Was he a star then, and could she have reported it then? It would have saved many more assaults perhaps. On Monday's World Date there was an item on 3 bodies found in a Hampshire beauty spot. They were of Michael Pedersen, his son Ben, 7, and daughter Freya, 6. The tragedy unfolds when Pedersen, a former household cavalry soldier, who along with his horse Sefton survived an IRA nail bomb attack in London, killed his 2 children and then committed suicide. It is thought he was distraught over the breakup of his marriage from his second wife Erica, whom he attacked in a jealous rage the weeks before the split. Pedersen, the father of 4 children, had told of his anguish over the breakup on Facebook. A World Date writer comments, "This crime is one of the saddest I've read. We have here a man who survived a terrible terrorist attack in 82 which probably had severe mental repercussions. His character will now be dissected by the politically correct crowd, but at no time would I ever condone the killing of one's children. They should never be made to pay for the stupidity or mental troubles of adults, especially their own parents." European news. The Swiss chapter of Amnesty International, NGO, is using humour and satire in a new hard-hitting campaign to combat policies that toughen conditions for asylum seekers in Switzerland. The NGO targets politicians from the right-wing populist Swiss People's Party, SVP, while poking fun at what it regards as their heartless approach to people seeking refuge on humanitarian grounds. In a video released as part of the campaign, SVP Federal Cabinet Minister Yuli Mura, MP, and party strongman Christoph Blocher are depicted as Somalian refugees sitting outside a shabby mobile home. SVP politicians are being singled out for their support of laws that make life for asylum seekers more difficult. Following recent legislation passed by Parliament for tougher legislation, the SVP last week called for further action to ensure that asylum seekers are placed in closed internment camps. The number of asylum applications is exploding, crime increases, the cost of asylum progressing from year to year, the SVP said in a statement, lamenting the processing takes up to 4 years. The Swiss asylum policy is now marked by abuses, absurdities and by inaction and confusion, the party said. More than 22,000 people applied for asylum last year, the largest number since 2002, and a 45% increase from 2010 according to official figures. The main countries of origin were Eritrea, Tunisia and Nigeria. The SVP said it suspects that many asylum seekers are in fact economic migrants. A leading figure of the party, Christoph Blocher, said that those who are rejected should be deported more quickly. Proposed revisions to the asylum law will bring no improvement, quite the opposite, Blocher was quoted as saying by the ATS news agency. The anti-immigrant SVP has drawn international criticism over several of its campaigns, including calls to ban minarets and expel foreign criminals. It has also been slammed over advertising depicting white sheep kicking black sheep off the Swiss flag. Yet despite a drop in support in October legislative elections, the SVP remains Switzerland's largest party, though it has only one cabinet member under a so-called magic formula power sharing agreement. The SVP, which last week filed a request for a referendum that would impose a cap on immigration, wants Switzerland to reintroduce border controls. A World Day spokesman said, perhaps it is time that all these members of NGOs should make their houses and land available for these parasites, but they won't, because they're hypocrites. World News. It has been reported that Israeli police ignored death threats made by Arabs to butcher Jews ascending the Temple Mount, but did however arrest an Arab for trying to stab a police officer. The police also arrested Likud nationalist Moshe Feiglin for attempting to pray there. Many Jews, including some from our Land of Israel movement, went to the holy site on Tuesday, despite rumours that some Arabs had plans to cause problems. The police were alerted but would provide no protection for this group of Jews. Asaf Fried, one of the group, said that when they entered the Temple Mount it was to the cries of Allah is great from the rabble. The police stood by whilst the Arabs blocked the Jews' exit, chanting, "We will expel the Jews in blood and fire and we will butcher Jews." Luckily the Jewish group managed to leave without further harm. Earlier that day the police did arrest Feiglin, head of the Jewish leadership faction of the Likud party, alleging he was trying to pray at the Temple Mount, which is considered a crime by the police. No further reason was given for the arrest. A World Date writer comments, "You see, here is the real reason why Israel has such a fight on its hands. The world and most nationalists favour the Arab and Palestinian side. However, I do not. I am truly impartial, but I hate to see unfairness, and the Jews have two major religions against them, ironically Christian and Muslim, although both these religions owe their roots to Judaism, and without the Jews there would be no Christians or Muslims, although in the latter case that might be a good thing." Rebecca Blake, 29, who was holding down a £100,000 a year job as a recruitment consultant, has appeared at Dubai criminal court accused of having sex in the back of a taxi. The British businesswoman accused of having drunken sex in the back of a Dubai taxi turned up at court today wearing a hijab. Blake hails from Dorking in Surrey and remembers very little of her tryst with Irish welder Conor McRedmond. She claims she had only been in the back of a taxi for 5 minutes before the taxi driver reported her, and she was very drunk. She maintains she had 5 days of hell in the local Bur Dubai women's prison. Miss Blake told the Sun paper that on May the 4th she started at noon with a 4-hour-long all-you-can-drink brunch at Dubai's exclusive Rotana Hotel. A World Date reporter has commented, "Well, in Dubai they certainly pander to the West's drinking habits and then condemn them for what happens or doesn't happen. Hypocrites." Christians face persecution in Egypt. From Cairo, Shahara Amin for RIA Novosti reports Christian Copts in Egypt's North Sinai town of Rafah are being forced to flee their homes. The latest Coptic exodus was triggered by an armed attack on a shop owned by a Christian town dweller. 2 days earlier, flyers had been found outside Christian homes warning residents to leave or face death. The violence is not the first of its kind in Rafah. The town's only church, the Holy Family Church, has come under several attacks from militants since it was torched and looted in February 2011 as mass protests were taking part in Tahrir Square. Copts have experienced some of the worst violence since the January 2011 uprising, including the torching of churches, the violent military assault on Coptic protesters at Maspero last October, and forced evacuations of Copts from the towns of Dashur and Amrea. Tens of thousands of Copts have left Egypt to settle abroad since March 2011 out of concern for their safety, according to a report by Egyptian Federation of Human Rights. The recent anti-Islam video on YouTube has escalated fears for further attacks on Egypt's Christians after the clip, reportedly produced by Egyptian Christians living in the United States, provoked angry protests in Cairo and other Muslim capitals. In the meantime, Egypt's Coptic Christians, who were subjected to discrimination and marginalisation under Mubarak's rule, now face an even more uncertain future. Thought for the day. Black or white or black or what? I may be sensitive on this subject, but I've noticed that in the last few days since the Times' revelations on the Muslim sexual grooming of underage girls, referred to as Asian grooming gangs, there is a plethora of bad news concerning white people. We have 2 runaways. We have the tragedy of the ex-soldier killing his 2 children, the ex-soldier being arrested in the disappearance of April, the paramedics who did bugger all to save a 3-year-old child in a nursery. We have the Savile case, which is far from over, and the doozy I'm about to read, and I quote: "A 6-week-old baby was killed by its bipolar mother after she stuffed pages from the Bible into the infant's mouth while supposedly in the care of bungling NHS staff. Christian fundamentalist Julia Lovermore, 41, killed daughter Faith by stuffing her mouth with paper, then dousing her in white spirits and jumping up and down on her body. 2 health workers had visited the home in Milton near Cambridge earlier the same day and found her husband David in the grips of a psychotic episode, but had failed to act. The computer games designer, 39, had been frantically praying on the living room floor, asking for the devil to be taken out of his wife." Now, nowhere on this news will you find me extolling the virtues of the white race, but you'll also not find me extolling the virtues of anyone really. But I will denigrate the press when they fail, as they always do, to give fair hearings to us whites when we are found wanting. If the media extended the same courtesies to us that they extend to some of the Muslim paedophiles and ranting clerics, it would be fair, but they don't. So this balmy fundamentalist Christian has committed a terrible deed. Why was she not in a mental home? Why? Because they have closed most of the state mental facilities because of what? Politically correct Marxism. Left-wingers never admit that some people are not fit for purpose in any sense. They will never admit that some murderers should never see the light of day again and be exterminated. They never admit that to be human can sometimes be a total and complete failure, and that in very few cases some of these people do need putting out of the public's way and given help. The media have highlighted the various cases of ex-soldiers running amok and having mental problems. Hell, I'd probably have mental problems doing the job these men have had to do, and they should have been closely monitored and given real help at the right time. Bring back the days when murderers were killed for certain crimes, the prisons were free to take minor criminals, and the insane were institutionalised forever. The smaller state mental homes would be free for the treatment and rehabilitation of the odd sexual pervert and people who could be treated or cured. In shutting down most, if not all, of our mental facilities and at the same time increasing the already heavy immigration of people who have never been mentally checked, we have a time bomb. But the crux of this thought is that whilst the press are pandering to the great anti-white and anti-male feelings in this country, it means that they're covering up or simply not reporting other things which may have an everlasting effect on our way of life. After all, Muslim sexual grooming has been going on unchecked for over 30 years. Who knows what might have happened if the first cases had been reported and acted on in the early 80s? How many lives and families would have been saved, while everyone read the Mail, which centred on how well we are doing under Mr Thatcher and how awful the miners' strike was and more? At least there was very little celeb culture then, but now everywhere is riddled by people I have never heard of which take the place of real news. I just hope that 30 years from now there isn't another perfect storm in the making and we say, oh dear, if only we'd known then what we know now. Don't ignore the media and its anti-white stage, but do think that whilst they are reporting these important stories, what are they not reporting? And finally, well, Big Brother has come to stay. A school in Swindon has banned parents from looking at their own children taking part in sports until they've passed a CRB check, which is in fact a criminal reference bureau check, which all white and UK care workers etc. have to undertake before they are put to work. It goes without saying immigrant workers do not. The Isambard Community School has insisted on this draconian check to weed out potential paedophiles. A parent, Neil Park, was furious when he was turned away from watching his son George play rugby. The father of 5 said he was turned away because I had not been CRB checked. George was really upset by it all. What are they going to stop you doing next? Parents' evening? The school play? Well, words fail me on that one, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid. Right. We have another person kindly giving us input for the World at 8 news. We already have St Macy up north, Nick Griffin MEP and the Reverend West, and are expanding our team. We have acquired I'm No Cuffer, who's kindly accepted our offer to participate in the World at 8. We will be introducing a Gems of Britain once a month which will cover all regions. We will also give you the history and stories of the places that our reporters go to, and if you want to give us any input, please send it in. You have been listening to the World at 8. I am Lynne Mozart and I wish you all a very good night.